by the Ballet West Orchestra. Tickets at balletwest.org. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, partly cloudy and dry today with a high of 56. Cooler tomorrow with a chance of showers, and then rain is likely on Sunday. And right now we're at 55 degrees with partly cloudy skies. I'm Dan Bomas, KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources.
Inside Sources.
America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson.
On Utah's home for elevated conversation.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
We always say that beginnings are important, but endings matter. And today we're going to look at an important ending, the life of M. Russell Ballard, the late acting president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, concluded just about an hour ago. And there are many lessons within that. I've often said that the real power and importance in funerals is not in the comfort that they provide or the loving memories they evoke. The real power is what they inspire us and cause us to become in the future. Better men and better women, better friends, better neighbors, better leaders, better followers, because ending matters. And so over the next 30 minutes, we are going to look at both beginnings, middles, and endings, and the principles that mattered in the life of President M. Russell Ballard. Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
Well, the funeral services today held on the historic Tabernacle on Temple Square for the former acting president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, M. Russell Ballard, concluded just about an hour ago. And in classic President Ballard fashion, the funeral actually began a few minutes early and also ended a little bit early. He was incredibly efficient and effective, and I think that was very much in keeping with what he would want on a day like today. And it's also in keeping with his unique ability to get to the essence of things. I think if there was a gift that you could look at in his life, it would be that he had the ability to take complex things and boil them down to very simple things. He often said that complexity is dangerous, simplicity is powerful, and that was on display today, to be sure. We could spend hours looking at President Ballard's life through the lens of a very rich resume, a very long and lengthy list of accomplishments. But I remain a firm believer that you learn most about a person by examining the principles that they believed and the lessons that they actually lived day to day. And so we're going to dig into that over the next 30 minutes here on Inside Sources. I was there inside the Tabernacle, and again, being in that historic building there, and knowing President Ballard's rich connection to pioneers of all kinds, it was, I think, most appropriate. And so we're going to dig in a little bit. And as we begin, very interesting, he was being laid to rest following the services there in the Salt Lake City Cemetery. And I also think it's instructive what is on the headstone, where he will join his late wife, Barbara, who passed away about 5 years ago. A lot of the things that were most important to them in terms of principles are actually etched in granite on that stone. Very simple essence kinds of principles. Think straight. Keep it simple. Preach my gospel. Seek the one. Counsel together. Stay in the boat. Hold on. Love and just serve. Those were all things that were very simple principles, very powerful principles. And President Ballard lived those principles all around the world in a wide variety of settings, both as a world religious leader, as a community influence here in the state of Utah, to be sure. And so I want to give you just a little feel and flavor for what took place inside the tabernacle today. And it was interesting, his son Craig was the first speaker at the meeting today at the funeral services for M. Russell Ballard. And he talked about a lot of those getting to the essence of things, traits about his father, about that simplicity, but how that simplicity actually drove him to be very anxious and to be ever forward-leaning, fast-moving. His son, Craig Ballard, said that even a few days ago, President Ballard expected to be in the office on Monday. And as he would often quip, I still have a few things to do. He always had something to do. He was a man in a hurry, but never in a hurry, because he just moved at a pace and at a cadence that great leaders always do. President Ballard's daughter, Holly B. Clayton, spoke about he always put the family first despite his many responsibilities.
To each of his 7 children and their spouses, Dad was always a father first and foremost. And each of his 43 grandchildren knew him best as their grandpa. Our mom was his everything, and he counted himself the luckiest man in the world to have won her heart. He would consistently remind us that his best sales job was winning her over. Sometimes in the last few years, he would even tease us that if Mom was in heaven without him too long, she might find someone else she liked better.
Great light moment there. Holly B. Clayton, one of President M. Russell Ballard's daughters, who spoke first at the funeral services today at the Tabernacle on Temple Square. Elder Quentin L. Cook of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, one of President Ballard's colleagues, spoke about how President Ballard had this unique connection to his heritage as a great-great-grandson of Hiram Smith, and how that motivated him particularly to be a better missionary wherever he was in the world.
President Ballard never saw this heritage as a badge of honor or an entitlement of any kind. He did see it as a responsibility to teach the restoration of the gospel of Jesus Christ. He believed strongly that he would be both accountable to the Lord and to Joseph and Hiram. He had sculptured busts of Hiram and Joseph on his office shelf. I believe with this powerful motivation, M. Russell Ballard was the most dedicated missionary of our generation.
I love that framing from Elder Quentin L. Cook, saying that President Ballard never saw his heritage as a badge of honor or an entitlement of any kind, but he saw it as a responsibility to teach, to train, to declare. And he spent nearly 50 years as a leader in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints doing just that, in congregations large and small, in meetings with government leaders, business leaders, philanthropic organizations, of all kinds, as he linked arms and worked arm in arm with so many to simply make a difference and alleviate suffering all over the world. President Ballard's longtime friend and colleague in the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, Elder Jeffrey R. Holland, spoke about their friendship.
I became a fellow member of his quorum, where I have enjoyed his friendship and wise counsel for more than 29 years, 6 of which I have been at his elbow, watching closely his leadership of that quorum. Even more personally, may I say that during my recent 5-week hospital stay, 3 weeks of which were spent in an unconscious journey to the doorstep of death, President Ballard gave me blessings, or visited, or called the hospital every single day for those touch-and-go weeks while my life hung in the balance.
That was President, now acting president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, Jeffrey R. Holland, who assumes that acting president role upon the death and passing of M. Russell Ballard. And it was quite stirring there in the Tabernacle. You could feel all of the members of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles and the other leaders there on the stand as they were excited to see Elder Holland back, as he described there his illness, his 5 weeks in the hospital, and, of course, that tender connection to his predecessor now in Elder Ballard. And it was interesting at one point as Elder Holland spoke, I could see one of the senior leaders of the church turn to one of his colleagues and mouth the words, "He's back." And it was very nice to see Elder Holland back, and I am sure he was determined to be back for his friend and colleague and fellow quorum member, former acting president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, M. Russell Ballard. We're going to go ahead and stay with this conversation as we look at some of the principles. Again, we're not looking at M. Russell Ballard through the lens of a resume or a long list of accomplishments, but through the principles that he believed and, more importantly, that he lived. We'll give you some surprising insight into his life and ministry around the world as we continue on Inside Sources. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Think Again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. Next week.
I'm a conservative.
I like the independents.
The person that we like is on the ballot.
Your voice, your vote, 2023.
We voted. I wasn't going to miss it.
It takes almost no time at all.
Get coverage all day Monday and Tuesday, and all the results and reactions Wednesday. We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Hi, this is Doug Wright, and all you have to do is look up to the mountaintops and realize the time of year winter is around the corner. This is the time to start thinking about those holiday gatherings, maybe that reward for your employees, gifts for friends and neighbors, and Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. A gift card at Ruth's Chris really does the trick. Trust me, I have been a recipient. Plus, having that holiday gathering at Ruth's Chris. 2 locations, of course. Hotel Park City. Maybe you'll want to do that after a great day of skiing, or downtown Salt Lake City, maybe after the game or the concert. What a great experience during the holiday season, which now is just around the corner. It awaits you at Ruth's Chris, and you're going to find the best food ever. The steaks are cooked perfectly. The side dishes are beyond compare. And the desserts, oh my goodness. And of course, they have all the other entrees too. It's waiting for you now at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse.
Hey, Derek Overstreet here from the New Millennium Group, financial advisors in Utah. You know, I've been helping people retire in the state of Utah for the last 20 years. The way we do that is we actually find out what is important to you. We create a step-by-step plan that takes into consideration your income, your debt, whether you want money from real estate, stock market, annuities, life insurance, whatever. If you want to deal with professionals, people that are fiduciaries and have a legal responsibility and obligation to do what's in your best interest, give my team a call at 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. Or go to my website, utahsfinancialplanner.com. If you'd like to retire 3 to 5 years before you thought it was possible, give my team a call right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370.
Happy 62nd birthday, Granddad.
Thanks, sweetheart.
I got you this.
A mug. What does it say? Beware. If you are 60 or older, you may be at increased risk of serious consequences from RSV, respiratory syncytial virus, compared to adults younger than 60.
Not all dangers come with warning labels. Talk to your pharmacist or doctor about getting vaccinated against RSV today. RSV vaccines, including Pfizer's, are available. Learn more at bewareofrsv.com. Brought to you by Pfizer.
Life is full of change and uncertainty. Sometimes it feels impossible to know what to focus on or who to listen to. In his new book, Heart of the Matter, What 100 Years of Living Has Taught Me, President Russell M. Nelson sheds light on how we can find meaning in mortality, how to focus on what really matters, pulling from a century of life experience as a surgeon, father, and prophet. He reassures readers that there really are unchanging truths that can anchor us in an ever-changing world. Get yours today at a Deseret bookstore or deseretbook.com.
Don't miss Provember at Lowe's. Save $80 on a DeWalt combo kit and save $20 on a 5-gallon pail of HGTV Home by Sherwin-Williams All-Purpose Power Primer. Plus, MVP's members earn 3 times the bonus points on DeWalt and HGTV Home by Sherwin-Williams products. Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows pros. While supplies last, selection varies by location. Bonus points calculated before tax and fees after applicable discounts, if any. Valid through 11/22, subject to change.
Any Hour Services can help you make sure your furnace keeps you warm this winter. Whether you need a tune-up, a repair, or a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
After nearly 50 years of service, President M. Russell Ballard was laid to rest today. As we continue our coverage of his life and legacy, I want to go back to some important stories and insight in terms of the principles that he lived by. We're really focusing on the essence of things, because that's what M. Russell Ballard was all about as an apostle, as a church leader, as an influence in our community, and someone who made a difference for so many all around the world, inside and outside of the faith. and of no faith at all. He had an incredible ability to treat everyone with what he would often call the widening of the welcome. That was always the challenge. Widen the welcome. Make sure you're being inclusive. Create space for everyone to have a voice, to have a place. And because of that, he was a beloved leader around the world for so many different reasons. And we want to dig into a little bit more of that. Going back to the funeral from earlier today, President Dallin H. Oaks, first counselor in the first presidency of the Church of Jesus Christ, was the concluding speaker at the funeral today. And he bid a very tender and very powerful farewell that actually connected to President Ballard's last address in General Conference in October.
In his final conference address, President Ballard said to members of the church, "Oh, how I love you. What a glorious experience it has been to look into your faces, to be in your presence, and to feel your love that you have for the Lord and for the restoration of the gospel of Jesus Christ." To which we now respond, "Oh, how we love President Ballard. How glorious it has been to associate with him, to be inspired by his loving care for his beloved Barbara, to hear his resounding witness of the Lord Jesus Christ."
What's interesting as you talk to people coming in and out of Temple Square today, so many personal connections to President Ballard, so many who had just a personal touch, a personal experience of one form or another. Again, President Ballard always widening the welcome, creating space for everyone to feel included, to feel welcome, to feel like they mattered and that they belonged. I spoke earlier this week with Executive Vice President of Deseret Management Corporation, Sherry Dew. She joined me here in studio. And I want to go back to some of that conversation because it gives you some sense and a little insight into the kind of leader President Ballard was. Here's how Sherry Dew described him.
Here's somebody who will march up San Juan Hill and plant a flag. And if it was a issue that he believed in or cared about or thought needed to get done, and let's say it didn't get done right away. You know, there's some things in a large organization that take a while to get done, or the timing just isn't right. When you first have a vision of, oh, this is where we should go, I really think he was quite visionary.
Yeah.
He could see things that needed to happen. He would keep pushing for those things that he thought needed to happen, and really wasn't much inclined, at least from what I could see, to let up on those things.
So interesting. I love the description that if you want someone to march up San Juan Hill and plant a flag, that person would be President M. Russell Ballard. And he did that on many occasions in many different places and spaces. Sherry went on to share with us on Monday an experience she had with President Ballard and some context in terms of how President Ballard was tasked to really push President of the Church, Russell M. Nelson's call for reinforcement in the proper name and proper use of the church.
I was in a meeting that was called where President Ballard stood up. He stood up and read a letter that had come to him was either from President Nelson or from the full first presidency, not sure which, where they basically tasked him as president of the quorum, acting president of the quorum, and the quorum of the 12 to take on this impossible task of reinforcing and reinvigorating devotion to the full and correct name of the church. I don't remember the exact words, but he basically read the letter and then said, we're going to do this. And I imagine that anybody who was in that room knew that even though everybody on the periphery was saying, you can't do that. You can't do that in an internet age. You'll lose SEO. You'll lose all this search authority. You'll lose too many people want to call us Mormons or Mormonism or whatever. It's not doable. And he stood up and said, we're going to do it. And then with help from the Quorum of the 12, and then, of course, many others to assist at headquarters, I'm sure. Look at the progress that was made in a fairly short amount of time. It's not perfect. There's a lot of work yet to be done, I suppose, but extraordinary progress. And again, if you want somebody to charge up the hill and plant a flag and say we're going to do it, that was just one of the things in his nature that made him a very dynamic leader.
A very dynamic leader. He did understand the vision, so he had incredible vision yet he also had this practical, tactical in terms of, okay, now we know what the vision is. We know where we need to plant the flag. Now, what are we going to do to get there? I had the opportunity to sit down with President Ballard and Elder Garrett W. Gong of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles about a year after that task had begun in really reinforcing the use of the proper name of the church. And the progress was astounding. But it was not surprising to President Ballard because he knew what the essence of the issue was. He knew what needed to be done. He charged up the hill and planted the flag, and people followed. And that's what great leaders do. And that's the kind of dynamic leader that President Ballard has always been. I want to shift to one other component to President Ballard that is part of this idea of widening the welcome and making sure everyone feels welcome wherever they are. Anyone who enters a church building anywhere around the world, President Ballard felt like they should feel welcome. I spoke with KSL TV's Carol Makita about President Ballard's influence on the artwork displayed in church entranceways and why that was so important to President M. Russell Ballard.
This is a quote from then Elder Ballard in 1996. "Inspired art speaks in the language of eternity, teaching things to the heart that the eyes and ears can never understand. God's purpose for the artist is to inspire, to give us visions of ourselves that we might not otherwise see, to make us better than we should have been." So going back to during the pandemic in May of 2020, the first presidency asked all church leaders and physical facilities managers to place artwork of Jesus Christ in foyers and main entrances of the faith's buildings throughout the world, so that Latter-day Saints and visitors will immediately recognize the sacred image of the Savior. Well, whose idea was that? It was President Ballard's. I asked him about it, and here's what he said. "I came to realize that we were not doing that one Sunday when I went to 3 different chapels, and in the foyers, he was not there. He was down the hall. It dawned on me this is his church, and the first thing people ought to see when they walk into the foyer of the Church of Jesus Christ ought to be some wonderful work of art that depicts his life and his ministry." So it's a wonderful legacy, even though he's basically opening the door for Latter-day Saint artists to fill the foyers and entryways of all buildings throughout the world. But it was his inspiration.
So again, today was the funeral services for acting president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, M. Russell Ballard of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And as we said at the beginning of the show today, funerals matter, not just because of the comfort they provide or the loving memories that they invoke. It's what they inspire us to become. And I am a lover of funerals for that very reason, because you learn a lot about a person through their principles, but then you are inspired to become something better yourself. And M. Russell Ballard gave us a boatload to keep and to be working on. And going back to what you can see on the headstone, on the marker, where he will lie in the Salt Lake City Cemetery. Think straight, keep it simple, preach my gospel, seek the one, counsel together, stay in the boat and hold on, love and just serve. Pretty simple principles, powerfully lived by an extraordinary man, M. Russell Ballard. And as we say, endings matter. And we will end the show today with a special tribute to M. Russell Ballard. So stay with us throughout the program today. We'll go ahead and step aside for some bottom of the hour news. More Inside Sources coming up next on KSL News Radio.
It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bonas. KSL's top local story this hour. President Jeffrey R. Holland, the acting president now of the Quorum of 12 Apostles for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, was among those with fond memories of President M. Russell Ballard at today's memorial service in the Tabernacle. Holland said President Ballard is a tough act to follow. He spoke about his recent 5-week stay in the hospital as an example of the kind of person President Ballard was.
And thanks to this remarkable family who I love so dearly and who honor me with this invitation to speak, I got to kiss President Ballard's cheek for the last time, just hours before he passed.
President Dallin H. Oaks, the first counselor in the first presidency, said President Ballard leaves behind a legacy of enduring faith and commitment to the gospel. Only 4 days left till Election Day. County clerks in Utah are recommending anyone who wants to vote by mail get their ballots in the outgoing mailbox today. If you can't do it now, you can take it into the post office by Monday or to a ballot drop box. Either way, Salt Lake County Clerk Lanny Chapman says make sure your voice is heard, especially in a municipal election.
They're the ones that decide what roads to fix, where to put bike paths, where to put parks, what to prioritize in your neighborhood. It is so quintessential that you are represented there.
All mail-in ballots have to be stamped by the post office by Monday to be counted. Polls and drop boxes close at 8 p.m. on Tuesday. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Israeli and U.S. sources are saying hostage negotiations are ongoing now. ABC News correspondent Patrick Revel is in Tel Aviv with more on the efforts to free more than 200 people captured by Hamas.
The funeral took place today of Noah Marciano, a 19-year-old IDF soldier who was taken hostage by Hamas on October 7th and whose body was found this week by the IDF in Gaza. They say they found her body in a building adjacent to the Al-Shifa hospital. Thousands of Israelis came out today to pay their respects to her at the funeral. It comes, of course, a day after another body of a hostage was found, of 65-year-old Judith Weiss. Her body, the IDF says, was also found in a building adjacent to the hospital.
And your money at this moment. The Dow Jones average down on the day right now, just 24 points. The NASDAQ is down about 5. And our KSL weather. Enjoy the sunshine we have this afternoon because tomorrow it'll be gone. We'll have KSL weather next. KSL News Time, 1:33.
We have enough people running around Broadcast House at 4 in the morning to field a football team.
Producers, reporters, the traffic team, and us.
This is Tim and Amanda.
Join us each morning from 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
It was 2 years ago this month, right before the holidays, when I started the Soda Weight Loss Program. And I know my friend said, "Are you crazy? You're going to do this right before the holidays?" Yes, because you know what day is the best day to begin to be healthier? Today.
Yeah.
Whenever today is always the best day because there is always going to be a reason, Tim. At least I found a million of them. I got to wait till after this semester, after the boys graduate, after they start this, after I get the house. It's always after something. So today is the best day to start Soda Weight Loss.
Well, here's my suggestion. Maybe you've designated 2024 as the year that you're finally going to stick to it and you're going to lose the weight and you're going to keep it off forever. That's exactly the mission of Soda Weight Loss. So do this. Reach out and get a consultation right now with Soda Weight Loss and pick your start date. Doesn't have to be today.
Right.
Maybe it's going to be 3 weeks or right after the first of the year. It's a great way to get started, and taking that first step is the important thing. Go to sodaweightloss.com, spelled SOTA. It is state-of-the-art.
I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine. It can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
I'm so stressed about my business not being ready for the holidays.
Ooma.
What is that? Meditation?
I'm recommending the Ooma cloud phone system with auto attendant and more than 35 features.
Ooma?
Yep. Switching to Ooma is a cinch. Starts at $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees. Ooma. Now you're feeling it. Visit Ooma.com. That's OOMA.com to learn more. Ooma. Smart communications for the smarter business.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking. Now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Attention Wasatch Front businesses and property managers. Don't wait for bad weather to schedule professional snow service with GoPave Utah. Your complete parking lot safety starts at GoPaveUtah.com.
We do have an accident for downtown drivers at 4th West and South Temple involving a UTA bus also. Salt Lake City PD are blocking traffic as Salt Lake City Fire investigates a fire near 7th South 40th West. You need to avoid that spot and use an alternate. Join the Utah Symphony for the greatest classical hits from the 1700s to today. Tickets start at $21. Get yours today at utahsymphony.org. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, partly cloudy and dry today with a high of 56. Cooler tomorrow with a chance of showers, then rain likely on Sunday. And right now, partly cloudy, 55 degrees. I'm Dan Bomas, KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com, Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. With Inside Sources on KSL News Radio. Inside Sources, an inside look at 2024 presidential politics.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. Every Friday, we do our Inside Sources look at inside the presidential election as we roll into 2024, looking at all the different candidates. And we're going to do that in a big way today because there's been a lot of action going on, some that has been very surprising. So you're going to stay with us for the next 20 minutes here as we break it all down and look at some of the things that have happened, some of the surprising components to all of this, and some things that I think will be really important in terms of what comes next in the presidential race for 2024. So we're going to start with the Democratic side of the aisle, and I think the biggest political win of the week for President Biden was actually his meeting in San Francisco with President Xi of China. A lot of good photo ops. It does put the president on the world stage. It does show that he has command of the issues that are important. And I think the most important thing that got done in that meeting, beyond headlines and beyond just the photo ops of it all, was actually the crucial reconnection of the military communication between the U.S. and China.
We're reassuming military-to-military contact. As a lot of you press know who follow this, that's been cut off, and it's been very worrisome. That's how accidents happen, misunderstandings. So we're back to direct, open, clear, direct communications. Vital miscalculations on either side can cause real trouble with a country like China. I think we're made real progress there as well. Moreover, the United States will continue to compete vigorously with the PRC, but we'll manage that competition responsibly so it doesn't veer into conflict. And where it's possible, where our interests coincide, we're going to work together like we did on fentanyl. That's what the world expects of us.
So I think that was important for President Biden. I also think it was very important for candidate Biden to be there on the world stage. And obviously one additional area coming out of that meeting in San Francisco with President Xi that will benefit both President Biden and candidate Biden is the agreement the president mentioned there on fentanyl. Obviously, it's killing tens of thousands of Americans. Both sides agreed to cooperate in stopping the flow of the precursor chemicals. A lot was said, but so much more remains to be done. But again, I think there were some wins there for both President Biden and for the country, as well as for President Biden as the candidate rolling into 2024. Now, yesterday, Andrew Cuomo from News Nation interviewed Senator Joe Manchin, of course, a Democrat in the Senate from the state of West Virginia. He's made many media appearances this week and is considering a run for the presidency as a third-party candidate. Senator Manchin explained his thinking as to why he's considering a presidential run, and we'll take a look at this as to what that means for both the Democrats and the Republicans.
The extremes have taken over to where they're the loudest or the base or whatever they want to call them, but that's not where America is. I can't change Washington from within. I've tried for 13 years. So I'm going to go outside here, and I'm going to be going around and seeing if we can get the radical middle. Isn't that an oxymoron? And they're out there. They feel like you and I and many of us that this extreme, hatred, and now we've got extremes on both sides. And we're going to say, okay, here's where the votes are. You want to get reelected? You better come back to the middle.
The radical middle. I love that as framing. That is great framing from Senator Joe Manchin, who is a Democrat. He's been asked a lot of questions about leaving the Democratic Party and then, of course, what impact that would have on President Biden's reelection. Very interesting. Senator Manchin was also asked why doesn't he announce his run immediately if he really does want to run and become the president?
Do I have a burning desire to be president? No. Do I have a burning desire to save my nation and save our country and all of us? Absolutely. And I would do anything possible. The Democrats have went too far to the left. Can it move the Republicans that are leaning too far to the right? I think Donald Trump getting reelected, if he would destroy democracy as we know it. I think Joe Biden has gone too far to the left. Can that be corrected? I don't know. But you asked me point blank, why don't I just do it? I don't have a burning desire to do that. I have a burning desire to save the country. But if it comes down to it, would I do it? Yes. We're not there yet.
So very important conversation there from Joe Manchin, and I think he was the equal opportunity offender, which we applaud on this show, because he was calling out both the extreme left and the extreme right. And if he can actually rally the radical middle, then that's a very different kind of conversation. So that's what the third party looks like this week. It will have some impact, clearly, on the Democrats if Joe Manchin were to leave the Democratic Party. We'll come back to that a little bit later. On that same show on News Nation, Andrew Cuomo interviewed Congressman Dean Phillips. Now, that may be a head-scratcher. Who's that name for you? He is a representative from Minnesota, and he has announced a primary run against the incumbent president of his own party. So he is a Democrat, and he has announced he is running against Joe Biden. So during the course of the interview with Andrew Cuomo on News Nation, Representative Phillips was asked why he thought he was the right person for the job. Here's what he had to say.
Well, I would be a candidate with the most broad experience probably in recent memory. I've run businesses. I've chaired the board of a health system. I was a regent at a university. I've run a philanthropy. And now I've served 3 terms in the U.S. Congress. And I think when our founders designed our system of governments, they wanted people that had broad life experience. And I think we've had too many presidents who have very little experience beyond public service. President Biden has served as a senator since I was 3 years old. He has done nothing other than public service, which I admire. But I'll tell you, what we are addressing in the future, wars overseas, AI about to fundamentally change our economy and the whole world, I don't think we have people in the right demographic generationally that can prepare for the changes that are about to come.
So while many say that Representative Phillips is a pipe dream of a pipe dream in his candidacy, he is sparking a very important conversation. And it is an uncomfortable conversation for the establishment components of the Democratic Party. They don't want to have this conversation out loud in front of the public. But Representative Phillips is saying we have to. Otherwise, in his words, the alternative is most likely another run of the former president, Donald Trump. So he's saying it's time for generational change. We got to deal with different kinds of wars. We got to deal with AI, and we have to do this just a little bit different. He applauded President Biden's service to the country, dating back to about the time he was born, and saying it is time we got to get a little different demographic in there. On this same interview on News Nation, Phillips was asked if he thought he could navigate the politics of a divided and a very angry Congress. Dean Phillips gave his answer to that and also laid out what I thought was interesting, some policy decisions that would set him apart from other candidates and from the president of his own party.
because I know how to navigate this. I call my Republican buddies my dear friends. Do I agree with them all the time? A lot of time I don't at all. But if we want to get this country back on track, literally repair, by the way, Chris, I will have a bipartisan cabinet. I'm going to have a youth cabinet because young people feel completely disconnected from their White House, from their government. President Biden, after 50 years of doing this, leading to the very problems that we have now in our country and abroad, is exactly why we need change, not just here, in the Middle East, in Europe, and all around the world. It's time for a new generation of competency, of decency, and to bring us to a bright future.
So that is Representative Dean Phillips, who has announced his run for the presidency, challenging the leader of his own party and President Biden. And you listen to him, he makes a lot of sense. And I think he's making a lot of the far left Democrats and some of the establishment, those who have been in power for a long time, he's making them a little bit nervous because he's making some pretty compelling points. And it's a very interesting way to go about that. There's so much to cover in the world of politics that we're going to stay with the conversation. We're going to do a little extended version of our inside look at the presidential race. We'll come back with the Republican side of the aisle, and then we'll compare and contrast where they both are as we head into the holidays and on into 2024. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Doug Wright, and you've heard me talk about my friends at NPS. They've been serving customers in Salt Lake City and the surrounding areas since 1968. A lot of people are asking me, and I was curious too, why are the NPS prices so very low? Well, the business started with a simple concept of assisting other businesses with their overstock, refused and unclaimed and even damaged merchandise, and it grew from there to where it is today, being able to offer every customer the same incredible pricing, 30 to 70% off on any given day. And then the additional specials, it is remarkable. NPS has 4 retail outlets, plus an online store and auctions each week with items from everyday necessities to unique products. Everything from groceries, produce, frozen, deli, clothes, clothing, accessories, home decor, electronics, hardware and tools, arts and crafts, health and beauty. It goes on and on. Orem, Salt Lake, Layton, you're going to love NPS.
Thousands of stores across the country are pulling brand-name cold and allergy products off the shelves. Why? Because an FDA advisory panel recently determined that a drug they contain, oral phenylephrine, is ineffective as a nasal decongestant. Navage offers a drug-free solution that's fast and highly effective at relieving nasal congestion caused by colds and allergies. Navage uses suction to pull saline in one nostril, around the back of the nose, and out of the other nostril to help suck out allergens, mucus, and germs. Nasal irrigation works, and Navage makes it quick and easy, but more than anything, it helps you breathe better. Don't waste your time or money on products that are ineffective. Trust drug-free Navage for fast relief to help you breathe easier, sleep better, and feel healthier. Ask for Navage at Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, or find us online at Navage.com. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E. Clean nose, healthy life.
Does your company offer health insurance to your employees? If so, how do you know if you're getting the best deal on employee benefits? Did you know that a benefit broker makes more money when you spend more? Brokers are not only incentivized to steer you to more expensive insurance plans, but the more quotes they get, the harder they have to work and the less money they make. My name is Keith with Magellan and Linden. We're a different kind of benefits broker that offers a best plan, best price guarantee. We get insurance quotes from every insurance company every year. It forces insurance companies to compete for your business and offer the best deal possible. Here's what you do. Visit shopmyplan.com. We'll get you free quotes with no strings attached. If you like what you see, let's work together, and you'll get the best plan at the best price. If your benefits broker isn't getting quotes from every insurance company every year, you're probably paying too much. So visit shopmyplan.com today to get the best deal on employee health insurance. Go to shopmyplan.com today.
Enjoy Utah's beautiful snow and family fun with winter tubing at Soldier Hollow and Midway. Experience longer tubing lanes, shorter lines, and more fun. Book your session now at UtahOlympicLegacy.org.
KSL Broadcast Group contests are open to participants 13 years of age and older that are residents of Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, and Nevada, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, or other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest may not enter. Persons who have won in the last 90 days from a station contest or event are not eligible. Full general contest rules are available at kslnewsradio.com.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, the new acting president of the Quorum of 12 Apostles of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints told a memorial service today his predecessor will be a tough act to follow. Second, you have just a few days left to get your ballot in the mail for Utah's special election. The deadline is Monday. Third, a funeral held today for an Israeli soldier who was taken hostage by Hamas in the attack October 7th. Negotiations to free the rest of the hostages are ongoing. 55 degrees, partly cloudy right now in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources, an inside look at 2024 presidential politics.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. We're continuing a little extended view. Every Friday, we dive into our inside look at presidential politics here on Inside Sources. And there was a lot to cover this week, so we're doing a little extended version here until the top of the hour. And as we look at everything that went down, we talked about President Biden, his good week both presidentially and as a campaign, and all the things that go with that. Of course, he's also got some heat coming from his own side of the aisle. With Representative Phillips, and then also Joe Manchin, of course, Democrat from West Virginia, saying he won't run for re-election in the Senate and is considering possibility of the radical middle rising up and having a third-party candidate that he might be part of such a ticket. On the Republican side, some weeding out and thinning down rolling into the holidays. Senator Tim Scott announced his campaign suspension live on air, which not only surprised the host of the show, Trey Gowdy, it also surprised a large number of his staffers who didn't know this was going to be the end.
Traveling this country, meeting people has been one of the most fantastic experiences of my entire life. I love America more today than I did on May 22nd. But when I go back to Iowa, it will not be as a presidential candidate. I am suspending my campaign. I think the voters, who are the most remarkable people on the planet, have been really clear that they're telling me, not now, Tim. I don't think they're saying, Trey, no, but I do think they're saying not now. And so I'm going to respect the voters, and I'm going to hold on and keep working really hard and look forward to another opportunity.
I think Senator Scott still has much to do and much to offer the country. I think you'll see that in the years ahead, that he will continue to be a voice, an important voice. It was a campaign that never quite got off the ground, didn't seem to quite get to the messaging. Debates were a very difficult thing for Senator Scott, primarily because he's just a really good human, and he is not into fake fights and false choices and just trying to get a soundbite in or an elbow or a punch or a counter punch in. It's just not how he rolls. And the interesting thing to me is we have to really reassess, what are we trying to elect? Are we trying to elect a debater-in-chief? Are we trying to elect a social media influencer-in-chief? I think we're rewarding all the wrong behavior and looking at all the wrong qualifications when it comes to someone who's going to sit in the Oval Office and make really important decisions. As we continue on the Republican side, Chris Christie arrived back home from a visit to Israel, getting some of his own perspective on the war against Hamas. He spoke at the Hudson Institute in Washington, D.C. on his foreign policy, what he would do should he become president. He spoke about the war in Israel just being the latest crisis resulting from a failure of American leadership in the world.
What Israel is facing today is not new. It's just the latest crisis in a world that is increasingly falling into chaos. And the reason it's falling into chaos is the lack of American leadership. In less than 3 years, any deterrence we had left in Asia, Europe, and the Middle East has been diminished by this weakness. I think it's fair to say that these are extraordinarily serious times, and they call for serious, experienced leaders.
That was Chris Christie. I also want to go to a town hall. Chris Christie's been spending a lot of time in New Hampshire. He talked about the reasons he was running for president. He reflected on some final thoughts given by one of the founding fathers, John Adams, near the end of his life that I think are kind of instructive and a little insightful in terms of what drives Chris Christie.
We need to open our hearts to each other and work hard to make this place better for everybody. And I think we can do it because the proof is we've done it before. And those folks that we read about in history books maybe made to sound better than us, but I don't think they are better than us. I think they should be what we aspire to be. John Adams, when he was getting ready to die, remember he died on the 50th anniversary of this country, July 4th of 1826. He wrote in his diary something really important for us. He wrote it for posterity. He said, "You shall never know the sacrifices that were made to secure for you your liberty. I pray you make a good use of it. For if you do not, I shall repent in heaven for ever having made the sacrifice at all." I'm running for president because I don't want him to repent in heaven because I wasn't willing to do everything I could do to meet that aspiration.
Meeting those aspirations, a big part of the battle. Nikki Haley, who, of course, has been rising in the polls over the last two debates. She's definitely got some momentum in Iowa. In New Hampshire, a poll that came out today showed that she has catapulted into second place in that race. Of course, the former president, Donald Trump, is still far ahead, double-digit lead there in New Hampshire. But Nikki Haley clearly on the rise. She was campaigning hard in Iowa this week, trying to increase her support in that crucial beginning of the beginning process that is not that far away in January. She had a televised town hall earlier this week on Fox News and responded to voters' questions directly. Several questions involved the state of American education and what her education policy would actually look like. This is what she said about how we need to improve learning, the learning that is actually happening in schools.
I had apprenticeships all over South Carolina. We taught our kids how to build the things we were making. We need to focus on that. And to me, we've got to modernize our education system for the jobs of the future. But you can only do that if you start with them reading in elementary school, start training them in high school on skills, and make sure our technical colleges are ready to put them in jobs immediately.
And he was also asked directly if she thought raising the minimum wage would be necessary to decrease poverty. And this was a really insightful bit of insight from Nikki Haley about what she did as governor in South Carolina.
You know, if we're going to focus on poverty, instead of focusing on wages, let's focus on training. We moved 35,000 people from welfare to work because a lot of people don't know where to get the training, and a lot of businesses don't know how to find people. So rather than focus on wages, what I want to focus is that let's train them so they can really, we need to lift up everybody, not just a select few. So let's get them the training and connect them to the good jobs they can get. When you get a person a job, you take care of a family. We've got a lot of families to take care of, but we've got to do our part to make sure we get them to that place.
Fascinating perspective there from Nikki Haley, saying it's not so much about focusing just on minimum wage, but making sure you're getting the right kind of job training so people have that upward path in terms of standard of living and upward mobility. So all of that coming out of the presidential politics this week, and as we do every week, we remind you that trying to understand the behavior of someone running for president is like trying to smell the color 7, and it's going to get even more wacky and a little more wild as we roll into 2024. So stay with us on Inside Sources. We'll keep you up to date with an inside look from Inside Sources. That wraps up hour number 1. We'll step aside for some top-of-the-hour news, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll talk about some things you might have missed this week and some lessons that I've learned from the show and from some of our guests. Stick around.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
Listen at home on any smart speaker.
And in your car at 102.7 FM.
This is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. Leaders of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints remembered the late President M. Russell Ballard today. He was the acting president of the Quorum of 12 Apostles. There was a series of tributes at his funeral. President Dallin H. Oaks is the first counselor in the church's first presidency.
He has been an exemplary leader of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles during his many years in that capacity. We will miss him.
President Ballard's son Craig says his father served until the very last, even giving someone else a blessing while he was in the hospital. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. After meeting with world leaders in San Francisco this week, President Biden is closing out the historic APEC summit with the transfer of the 2024 summit chair to the president of Peru this afternoon. The president also hailing progress during his APEC meetings.
Over the last few days, we've worked together, and I think that's not hyperbole. We've worked together to find ways to build an inclusive, resilient, and sustainable economies for the Asian Pacific. And we talked about that progress that requires partnership.
And Peru will host the APEC summit next year. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average, up on the day, but just a bit. 1.8 points is all. The NASDAQ is up 11.8 points. And our KSL weather. Enjoy the sunshine while we have it, because the rain comes back tomorrow. That's next. KSL News Time, 2:01.
Early mornings can be hard enough, just getting yourself going.
We try to make it a little easier with news and weather from comfortable, trusted anchors and reporters.
Join us on Utah's Morning News between 5 and 9
on KSL News Radio.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. What about those round trips that you plan in advance, which are perfect on your way there and perfect on your way back? Or those meetings with friends for which you make a group chat 3 months before so that nobody or anything is missing? Or your daughter's first birthday party. You planned it with such dedication that instead of the first, it felt like our 15s. The same way you plan each detail for those moments. Start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Advanced Window Products is having their biggest sale of the year. If your old windows let the winter cold seep in, now's the time to get the highest quality double-pane windows and custom insulated frames. Advanced Window Products is a local company that crafts beautiful precision frames right here in Salt Lake City for 37 years. And the magic is, they cut out the middleman. They build the windows, they install the windows, and they guarantee them for life. So you save on the highest quality windows and frames. Any style, any color, any questions? Yes, financing. They offer 60-month 0% financing. They'll even let you put off the first payment up to 2 years, and while that's tempting to think about, the reason to call them right now is the biggest sale of the year. This month only, when they do your entire home of 10 windows or more, you get $3,500 off plus a free premium glass upgrade. So call Advanced Window Products right now, 801-850-9100, 801-850-9100, or advancedwindowsusa.com.
Be advised, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to save 40 to 80% on a hot tub and swim spa this weekend only, today through Sunday. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to save 40 to 80% on a hot tub and swim spa this weekend only, today through Sunday. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, noon to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Granite Credit Union's new Dividend Plus checking account. Here's Ricky Meese.
A new crash called out at Bangerter Highway just north of the 201 junction at the intersection, at that traffic light at 1820 South. We also have an accident on the ramp northbound I-15 at the 4th South exit. It's been moved to the shoulder. Downtown drivers, be aware, traffic is blocked due to a crash at South Temple between 3rd and 4th West, and a KSL traffic trooper, Tim, says northbound traffic is blocked at this time. Many families face food insecurity. You can help by donating to Macy's Harvest of Hope Drive, where proceeds benefit childhood hunger. Now through November 30th, visit any Macy's store or online at macys.com/online to donate. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, partly cloudy and dry today, a high 56. Tomorrow will be cooler with a chance of showers, then rain is likely on Sunday. And right now we're at 55 degrees with partly cloudy skies. I'm Dan Bonas, KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com, Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources.
Inside Sources.
America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
This week was full of all kinds of news, from high-stakes meetings between President Biden and China's President Xi to Congress coming together in a, quote, bipartisan way to fund the government. And as we get to Friday, we want to look back just a little bit and help you connect the dots on a few of the things that you might have missed during the week. There were some important conversations, some important decisions, some things that will impact you and that will impact the country and will impact the rest of the world and beyond. And so with all of that in mind, one of the things we'd love to do on the show is help you connect the dots and make the news make sense. So let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
All right, so for the next 20 minutes, we're going to do two things. One, we're going to look back at some of the important things and make sure you've got the right context in terms of what took place in the news this week. Again, connecting the dots for you. And then coming up after that, we're going to get to my favorite part, and that is what I learned this week. We have such extraordinary guests on this program that it's what I love about this job, is that I get to learn from some of the smartest people on the planet who give such unique insight and perspective into things that really matter. And so we'll do that coming up at 2:20. So stay with us throughout the next 20 minutes. Let's start with the news of the week, why it mattered, and what it actually means to you. We talked a little earlier in the program about President Biden and President Xi of China meeting. They restored that military-to-military communications that was so crucial. In fact, we had Jamil Jaffer from George Mason University's National Security Institute. He came on the program earlier this week and explained why restoring that military-to-military communication was so vital, especially now.
We have two major wars going on in the Middle East and in Europe. And we have this situation in the Indo-Pacific where China just last week sent 43 fighter jets and 7 warships into Taiwan's territorial waters and airspace. This has happened over and over again. You and I have talked about it on the show before. Yeah. It's a real problem, and so the tensions there are heating up, right? And the tensions between, there was a Chinese warship that collided with the Philippines fishing vessel. So there are tensions in that region as well. And you might worry that something might just tip over. And so having that mill-to-mill, military-to-military channel open is good, just to make sure that everyone says, hey, look, this wasn't intentional. This was a mistake. We're not actually trying to start, World War III. That's a real positive thing. Something we had with the Soviet Union, if everyone remembers. Those are sort of old enough to remember. There's actually a red phone, right, that you pick up and get the other side on the line. And so this is sort of the equivalent of that old 1980s red phone.
So that is a crucial accomplishment, I think, in terms of getting that done. And that is vital, again, especially with all the close air-to-air connection. We've got naval vessels in the region there near Taiwan. There's a lot of close encounters there, and not having that military-to-military communication was most dangerous. And so very important that got done. And there was a big miss. Jamil Jaffer also pointed out for us on the program that while a lot was said about fentanyl, he's going to be watching very closely in terms of what gets done moving forward. This is another thing that I love about our guests is they always help us say, okay, Here's what happened. Here's why it matters. But here's what I'm going to be watching moving forward. Here's what Jamil said about the fentanyl crisis in China.
We will see if China lives up to its agreement to cut off the flow of fentanyl to the United States. We know that they're aware of what's happening. That we know that they know how deadly it's been to Americans in this country. And we know that they have largely allowed it to happen. And so if they actually take real action on that front, I think that's a very productive thing. And I think that there will be a real benefit to the American public if that illegal flow of fentanyl stops from across our southern border. It's a problem of two things. It's a problem because the Chinese government allows it to happen, and it's a problem because our southern border is weak. And so if we fix at least one piece of that, then we start concentrating on the border problem itself and really get that right as well.
So really critical stuff there. Now, in what I thought was one of the most important think again moments this past week, we've heard a lot about the United States Senate and Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville, and who has been vilified and demonized about his holding of up to nearly 400 military nominees until the Pentagon changes its abortion policy. The question is he really holding them? Can one senator really stop all of those? And we brought our friend James Wallner on from the R Street Institute to break it down in terms of what the Senate can do and should do to move around this, and why neither Democrats or Republicans are taking advantage of it.
Democrats will agree. Senators agree that criticize Senator Tuberville that what he's doing, they don't like it, and they agree that they can use the rules to get around it, as you point out. But the problem is that they say that's going to take too much time, as if the Senate didn't spend all its time confirming nominees. Anyway, I don't know the difference between a military nomination versus a judicial nomination, but it seems like that's what the Senate does today to keep its members in town. But setting that aside, Democrats allege that this will take too long, it'll be too much work, and if they give in to this, either by negotiating with Tuberville over abortion or by actually processing these nominees through according to the rules, that somehow will embolden and empower other senators to pursue their goals on behalf of their constituents in the United States Senate using the rules as leverage. And so therefore, they don't want to do that. They want to adopt a new set of rules, which is what they did today in committee, or at least are proposing to do, that would make it easier for them to process these nominees.
So an important reminder, because this is one of those headlines you'll see everywhere you look, everywhere online. You can look at any of the major cable news networks. Everyone's talking about Tommy Tuberville from Alabama holding up these 400 military nominees. And the important think again moment is that the Senate can move around all of these. They've actually demonstrated. They've done it. In one evening, they moved through 4, just like that, because they can and they should. But Democrats and Republicans are both deciding this is an okay political issue. We can raise money off it. It's a good wedge issue. And so we're just going to hold the military hostage together. It's not just Senator Tuberville threatening national security by holding these nominees. Democrats and Republicans are responsible because the senators refused to do the job and be on the floor and advance those nominations. They have the power to do it. They should have started it in January. It all would be done. We shouldn't even be having this conversation on Inside Sources. But here we are in mid-November, still having this conversation. It's completely unnecessary. It's completely avoidable. If the Senate will just follow its own rules, doesn't need to change the rules, just follow the rules, and everything can actually get done. So important insight there from James Wallner this week. And then we'll close out, of course, with the big shift, and that we did not have to do a shutdown showdown today. So we're very happy that we're not doing that on a Friday here on Inside Sources. They actually got it done on Wednesday. Speaker Mike Johnson committed to doing it a little bit different in terms of how they approach spending rolling into 2024.
The House Republican Conference is committed to never being in this situation again. I'm done with short-term CRs. We're resolved. So what that means is you're going to see in the beginning of this next year, we'll be walking and chewing gum at the same time. We're going to get the appropriations process running on time as it's supposed to be under law. Congress hasn't done that for as long as we can remember. But we're going to get back to that because that's good stewardship. The American people deserve it. And the debt situation we find ourselves in necessitates that.
Stewardship matters. We talk about that a lot. Our good friend Galen Condi reminds us how important that stewardship is. And Speaker Mike Johnson saying, look, we're going to be better stewards of this process starting in the new year, and that is when they'll begin looking at 2024 and the appropriations that will take place for that, of course, which begins in September of next year. And so as we look at all of that, this is one more example of follow the rules, follow the process, trust the process, and the process will get done, and the results will be good for the American people. And I think the important thing for us to keep in mind is I applaud Speaker Johnson for doing this different, and yet we're still sort of doing it the same. And so while I'm glad we're not having a shutdown showdown fight today, or again before the holidays, we get all the way to January. But I think this is more a default of what happens when members of Congress want to get out of town. As we always say, the jet fumes coming from Washington Reagan International Airport have an amazing way of getting people to yes on a vote to fund the government and get out of town for the holidays. So a lot to continue with. We'll come back and talk about my learning for the week, what I learned from our guests. You want to stick around for that coming up next on Inside Sources.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. Next week.
I'm a conservative.
I like the independents.
The person that we like is on the ballot.
Your voice, your vote, 2023.
We voted. I wasn't going to miss it.
It takes almost no time at all.
Get coverage all day Monday and Tuesday, and all the results and reactions Wednesday. We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
It's time for Macy's Harvest of Hope for 2023. This is your chance to make a difference. There's nothing more important. 1 in 10 Utah children struggle with hunger, and so make a difference for them today. You can do that by going to any Macy's store. You can do it right at the register. You can just make a donation right there. You can purchase a prepackaged bag of food if you like, or you can always go online. Just go to Macy's.com. You can donate there. All the donations from Macy's Harvest of Hope are donated directly to the Utah Food Bank to serve the children in our communities. Donate today online at Macy's.com or at any Macy's store. As I said, it's so easy. Just go up to the register. You can make your donation as you're checking out. It's no problem. Or they have those wonderful prepackaged bundles of food that have all the things that the Utah Food Bank has that our young children in need or facing food insecurity are in need of. So make a difference today. Check it out. Macy's Harvest of Hope. Do it at any store or at Macy's.com.
Life is full of change and uncertainty. Sometimes it feels impossible to know what to focus on or who to listen to. In his new book, Heart of the Matter, What 100 Years of Living Has Taught Me, President Russell M. Nelson sheds light on how we can find meaning in mortality, how to focus on what really matters. Pulling from a century of life experience as a surgeon, father, and prophet, he reassures readers that there really are unchanging truths that can anchor us in an ever-changing world. Get yours today at a Deseret bookstore or deseretbook.com.
We're going abroad for the first time in years, to Spain. So we started using Babbel.
And started learning Spanish fast.
With Babbel, you can start having conversations in another language in just 3 weeks.
¿Cómo te llamas? ¿Cómo te llamas?
When you learn a language, you want to actually use it. Babbel is designed with that goal in mind.
In just 3 weeks, we're starting to have conversations in Spanish. Gracias, Babbel.
Babbel, language for life. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com.
You can't expect a policeman to unclog your drain. You shouldn't ask a teacher to change your oil. And you wouldn't want a fireman to clean your teeth. So why would we let politicians take over our internet service? That's just not what they do. Experience proves government-run networks mean waste, corruption, and failure. One example, called Utopia, promised to provide internet service in 16 cities within a few years. But over 20 years and hundreds of millions of dollars later, a better name would be dystopia. They say it's almost complete. We say stop wasting our money. Go to nogovinternet.com and tell lawmakers enough is enough. Local tax dollars are precious, and public employees have plenty to do already. Don't let politicians mess with our internet. Paid for by nogovinternet.com, a project of Domestic Policy Caucus.
Hey, winter's coming. Is it time to think about replacing your old furnace and air conditioner? Would a $1,200 instant discount on a new day and night home comfort system help?
Don't put it off. Have a new day and night furnace and air conditioner installed and get an up to $1,200 instant discount with a 12-year day and night no-hassle warranty on qualifying systems. You'll be warm all winter and save on your energy bills. Click online to dayandnightcomfort.com for a nearby elite day and night home comfort expert. The difference is day and night.
For the right repair and the right paint, the right choice is manufacturer-certified Martins Collision Repair. Hi, I'm Tiago Martins. Many shops have ASC and ICAR-certified technicians, but few have certifications by General Motors, Nissan, Chrysler, Hyundai, Jeep, and many others, making Martins your right choice. Online at martinscollision.com, on State Street in Orem and in Salem, we work with all insurance companies.
The right repair, the right paint, the right choice. Martins Collision Repair.
Fed Up Kitchen is Utah's premier healthy meal prep service. Save time, money, and get results with their delicious gluten-free, macro-friendly meals. Eat better, feel better, live better with Fed Up Kitchen. FedUpKitchen.com.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, family members and leaders of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints recalled fond memories of President M. Russell Ballard at a memorial service today in the Tabernacle. Second, President Biden says the Asia-Pacific Summit in San Francisco has been very successful over the past few days. Third, a big weekend for BYU sports, basketball and women's soccer, as well as football. Right now, 55 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Get deeper insights on the news from Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It's great to be with you today, as every day. I am Boyd Matheson, and if you're just joining us, we're taking this half hour of the show to look back at some of the major stories of the week, some things that you might have missed in between the lines of all the headlines, and also get to some of the things that I thought were most important this week and things that I actually learned from our guests. Because it's the best part of what we do here every day is we get to learn, we get to stay curious, and we have such extraordinary people join us on this program that always get me thinking again and thinking differently, especially about what I think I know. And so many days I walk away thinking, wow, I'd never thought of it that way before, or wow, that's big thinking. And so we're going to dig into a few of those. The Biden administration, of course, is renewing a sanctions waiver against Iran, and this was a head-scratcher for me. I'm like, why in the world is that happening, especially as proxy military militias fire against the United States, against Israeli targets? And so I had a conversation and learned some important things from Michael Rubin from AEI this week. He talked about how the sanction waiver would be a big mistake for the administration and sends all the wrong messages to all the wrong people on our side and the other side in the region and beyond.
You've got a situation where Iran is short on cash despite all of the sanctions waivers, and this simply is snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. You can be sure that money's going to go to Hamas, that money's going to go to the Houthis, that money's going to go to Hezbollah, and so forth. The analogy here would be if we decided to give someone connected to Vladimir Putin $10 billion and would actually tell the American people with a straight face, don't worry, none of this is going to fuel the war in Ukraine. It makes absolutely no sense. It shows strategic incompetence of the maximum order.
So as you look at that, again, that's one that was beyond the headlines and got me thinking, why in the world are we waiving these things that will clearly give more funds to Iran that's struggling for funds? And you can say all you like, as Michael pointed out, that you can say those aren't going to get to Hamas or those aren't going to get to our enemies, but are they really? I think it's a pretty tough sell. During the March for Israel event in our nation's capital this week, 100,000 plus, and in many conversations around the country, while we've seen some of the extremes in anger and frustration and even some violence, we've also seen extraordinary displays of human solidarity and coming together. We've seen people from wide ranges of faith traditions come together. In fact, it was fascinating. We covered something that happened on MSNBC earlier this week. Imam Shamsi Ali of the Jamaican Muslim Center reminded everyone that we're all human and have more in common than we think, as he had an interaction with Rabbi Schneider and their unique conversation as an imam and a rabbi. And here's what the imam had to say.
For me, anti-Semitism is my fight. As he have taken Islam for his fight. We advance our common humanity, that despite of the existence differences that we have even more in common. And at the end of the day, we are all human beings. We deserve dignity, we deserve respect, we deserve peace, reconciliation. And I think this world is shared by each and every one of us. We need just to live peacefully. And that's our aspiration. That's our dream.
So I just love the way the imam framed that. He said, for me, as an imam, anti-Semitism is my fight. And he was sitting along with Rabbi Schneider, who had just said that Islamophobia is his fight. So when we begin to take on the fights of others, we find our common humanity, we find that dignity and divinity that helps us build bridges of understanding and walk shoulder to shoulder towards a more peaceful planet. Also interesting this week, and someone I always learn from, Rabbi Samuel Spector from Kol Ami here in Utah, is actually in Israel this week. He spoke about the American hostages and the work that he was doing with several other rabbis who had gone from the United States into Israel to provide help and comfort and support in any way they could. Here's some interesting perspective. He joined us live from Israel, Rabbi Samuel Spector.
Then we've also met with families of people who are being held hostage in Gaza, including an American family, and that's something that I don't understand why that's not on the front cover of every American newspaper every single day. Not only that there's 240 hostages, there are 12 American citizens who are being held hostage. That's unacceptable. And as Americans, we need to do everything we can to get those folks back. And any calls for humanitarian aid, anything like this, should also include visits to the hostages. So please, listeners, advocate for your fellow Americans and for all who are being held hostage from age 10 months up to 87 years old.
It's a fascinating thing for me. I can't understand so much of the coverage as it relates to the hostages, that we have a large number of Americans, between 9 and 12 is the way they're framing that, Americans being held hostage, and we're not seeing images of them. We're not hearing from their families. And so much of the coverage is on a lot of other things. And so that got me thinking, why is that? Is it the dangers of the negotiations? Is it just where we are? Have we just lost interest in that? You think back over other hostages that have been held over the last year, or those who have been illegally detained. And if they're a big-name basketball player or if they're an important writer, they get a lot of coverage. But here we have Americans being held by Hamas inside of Gaza, and I don't think we're paying nearly enough attention to their plight or demanding that we at least get Red Cross access in there so we know their state and standing. We know what their situation is. I think that's an important one to keep our eye on as we roll through the weekend and into next week. Now, on college campuses, there's been a lot of coverage of that over the course of this week. Students have been using their voices to speak out on a wide variety of things. Many students have gone beyond just civil discussion or even civil disobedience, increasingly taking actions that are either violent or hostile. And so we wanted to have a different kind of conversation around that. We turned to Rebecca Russo, who's part of Interfaith America, a group that actually sponsors and organizes positive conversations and events at universities, bringing together people from different perspectives and understanding that in just a little bit different way, and really making the case that we need centers of pluralism on college campuses. That was a new idea for me. Here's how Rebecca described it.
So our programming in general is really about being proactive, about fostering positive relationships and cooperation across differences. So we run an annual Interfaith Leadership Summit that brings together hundreds of students and educators around the country to be trained in interfaith leadership and to bring that leadership back to their campuses. We run faculty development programs to work with faculty to integrate positive engagement of religious diversity and identity in meaningful and relevant ways into their curriculum and coursework. And we create opportunities for senior administrators and campus presidents to gather to think at a vision level and a strategic level about what does it mean to create a campus environment where diversity and religious diversity is engaged proactively and positively.
So those are just some of the things that I learned this week beyond the headlines as we talk to some of our guests from around the country and around the world. And it's always important for us to stay curious and to figure out what we think we know, what we think we believe, and learning from others to help us do that just a little bit different. We'll step aside for some bottom of the hour news. More Inside Sources coming up on KSL News Radio. Stick around. We'll be right back.
It's 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Boz. KSL's top story this hour. President M. Russell Ballard's family remembered his kindness as home, as well as his service to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints at today's memorial service in the Tabernacle. The speakers included President Jeffrey R. Holland, who has taken over President Ballard's role as acting president of the Quorum of 12 Apostles. It's been a year since the SWAT standoff in Harriman that left 38-year-old Alma Worthington dead after he opened fire on police. Today, the Salt Lake County District Attorney, Sim Gill, walked journalists through what happened, says it's clear that Worthington intended to die by suicide.
This was that perfect storm, the convergence between somebody who is struggling with his mental health issues, who is a vet, and clearly with an eye towards suicide by cop. I don't use that phrase. That phrase gets used often, but this is one of those cases in my 28 years that was about as direct as it could be.
Alma Worthington called the police himself and, according to 911 calls, told officers they would have to shoot him. Gill has not pressed charges on the officers involved. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Some new audio is shedding light on former President Trump's final days in office. In reporting for his new book, Tired of Winning, Donald Trump and the End of the Grand Old Party, ABC News chief Washington correspondent Jonathan Karl spoke with Trump about the January 6th attack on the Capitol just over 2 months after it happened.
I wanted to go back. I was thinking about going back during the problem to stop the problem, doing it myself. Secret Service didn't like that idea too much.
Trump says he would have been well received if he'd gone to the Capitol that day. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average, closing trading just barely up on the day, 1.8 points. The NASDAQ was up 11.8 points, and the S&P 500 up about 5 points on the day. And our KSL weather looks like we'll see the end of our sunny day today and more rain possible for the weekend. That's next. KSL News Time, 2:32.
Start your days with knowledgeable, friendly voices telling you about the latest news and weather out there.
Hi, this is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
In the business of waking you up each morning from 5 to 9.
On KSL News Radio.
Kids are back in the classroom, and at Central Bank, they understand the importance of forming good financial habits at an early age and encouraging kids to succeed in the classroom. Central Bank's Youth Smart Savings Account rewards students for great grades. Central Bank will reward your child grades 6 through 12 for every A or A- earned on each report card up to $32 per school year. They'll also match your child's opening deposit up to $20. And if earning a higher interest rate than a regular savings account isn't enough, they'll also let your youngsters choose from their treasure chest with each in-person savings deposit. Open a Youth Smart Savings account for your child, teen, or grandchild and teach them to save early. Central Bank's Youth Smart Savings Account is the smartest, hardworking children's savings account around. Visit them online at cbutah.com or in person at one of their 12 Utah County locations. Additional terms and conditions may apply. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hello, car donation hotline.
Hi, I'd like to donate a car to the Utah Kidney Foundation. Are you in Utah?
Awesome. Let's get some info and we'll send you a tow truck.
But I want my car donation to benefit my neighbor in Farmington who needs a transplant. Are you in Utah?
That's a gnaw. I'm in SoCal, but you're still donating to charity.
What charity?
Does it matter?
Yes, I want my donation to stay in Utah.
Righteous dude. You need to call tow cars in Utah. Locals only, am I right?
Oh, yeah. I remember tow cars with a K like kidney. It's on a billboard somewhere. TOWKARS.org. That's it. Towcars.org.
If you'd like your vehicle donation to help Utah kidney patients in the Beehive State, please use the web address on their billboard, towcars.org, to donate your old car or truck. That's TOWK like kidney, ARS. Towcars.org.
I served my country honorably in the Marine Corps, and now I've been serving you for over 2 decades. I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth. I met my wife on a blind date at Camp Lejeune. She also served in the Marines. My daughter recently graduated college, and my son was an air traffic controller in the Air Force. They also work in the business. Why am I telling you this? Because Trajan Wealth is both our livelihood and our family's reputation. Will we work hard for you? You're darn right. I don't have a board of directors to answer to. The buck stops here. My fiduciary duty is to you, the Trajan Wealth client. If you have an old 401k to roll over, or if you're working with an advisor who just isn't cutting the mustard and you need a second opinion, give Trajan Wealth a call. We have hearts of teachers, and we will take on your retirement battle together.
Call 899-7600 or visit TrajanWealth.com.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
Utah Symphony's Film and Concert Series delivers full-feature films on the big screen as the orchestra plays the soundtrack live. Tickets on sale now at utahsymphony.org.
Emergency traffic now brought to you by Granite Credit Union's new Dividend Plus checking account. Here's Ricky Meese.
We have a crash with possible injuries in South Salt Lake, northbound I-15 at 3300 South. It had been blocking several lanes of travel, but now it's only blocking a right lane, and they're trying to get that moved over to the shoulder. However, the delays are already in place, and they are solid well into Murray. Enjoy Utah's beautiful snow and whole family fun with winter tubing at Soldier Hollow in Midway. Experience longer tubing lanes, shorter lines, and more fun. Book your session now at UtahOlympicLegacy.org. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, partly cloudy, dry with a high of 56 today. Then tomorrow will be cooler with a chance of showers. Rain is likely on Sunday. And right now we're looking at 55 degrees with sunny skies at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Breaking news at KSL News Radio. I'm Becky Bruce. We're just getting word of a possible mass shooting happening at New Hampshire State Hospital in the town of Manchester. ABC News reporting there are multiple victims. We don't really know much else about that, including how seriously anyone is hurt, whether anybody has been killed, or how many victims that there are. But state police are on the scene there, and we are watching for updates again. A mass shooting apparently underway at the New Hampshire State Hospital this hour. Live, Becky Bruce, KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
As we often talk about, people on the left, people on the right, people on the middle can disagree on a host of issues, but we should be able to talk about all the issues. We don't have to agree on them, but we should be able to talk about all of them. Not in a superficial and fluffy kind of way. Not in a, is the glass half full, half empty, or rose-colored kind of way. Not in a kumbaya kind of way, or a group hug will fix it all kind of way. There's a better way. And the real key to that is civility. But often we even misunderstand civility. It gets lost in the headlines as well. And we're really pleased to have joining us on the program for the first time Alexandra Hudson, writer, speaker, founder, and curator of Civic Renaissance, which I love that just in and of itself. Lexi, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Your book, The Soul of Civility, Timeless Principles to Heal Society and Ourselves, I think has an amazing backstory. You have a little bit of history in the manners business. Tell us about that.
I do. My mother, she's called Judy the Manners Lady, and I was raised in this home that was incredibly attentive to social norms and expectations, but I am constitutionally allergic to authority. I hate being told what to do. I hate rules, so I always question these rules of propriety I was expected to follow, but my mother promised that they would lead to success in work, school, and life if I followed them, so I did, and she was right. Until I got to to federal government. I was there during a very divided moment in 2018. And when I got there, all of a sudden, everything I thought to be true, I knew to be true about the world, was questioned. And I saw these two extremes. On one hand, I saw people with sharp elbows who were willing to step on anyone to get ahead. And on the other hand, I saw people who were polished and polite and suave. And I was like, oh, these are my people. Until I realized they would smile and flatter at me one moment and then stab me in the back the next. And so I realized that politeness was not all it was cracked up to be. My mother had said growing up that manners were an outward extension of our inward character. And yet here I was surrounded by people who were well-mannered enough, but ruthless and cruel. So that experience clarified for me the essential distinction between civility and politeness.
Yeah, so let's unpack that, because I think that's the key to all of this, and to be able to have conversations across our differences to make sure we maintain that dignity and even the divinity of another person's humanity. Dig us into that in terms of, first, the difference between just those polite outward things and true civility.
That's right. So when I left government, I was so frustrated and disillusioned and in despair. And I zoomed out and started asking big questions again, like, what is personhood? What does it mean to be a human being? What is imago Dei? And what is the bare minimum of respect that we are owed and owe to others by virtue of our shared humanity and common dignity as human beings? And what does that look like in practice? And what my experience in government made me realize was that, politeness alone was not enough. And that politeness is mere, it's technique, it's behavior, it's external, it's etiquette and manners and mores, whereas civility is something deeper and richer. It is internal. It's a disposition. It's a way of seeing others as our moral equals who are worthy of respect just by virtue of our shared moral status as members of the human community. And crucially, sometimes actually respecting someone requires being impolite. It requires telling hard truths, engaging in robust debate, breaking the rules of politeness and politesse for the sake of actually loving and respecting someone. And so, as I argue in my book, The Soul of Civility, Timeless Principles to Heal Society and Ourselves, while politeness at its best can perfect the inner disposition of civility, it can be, it can serve it, but at its worst, it can be a tool to manipulate others and deceive them.
Yeah.
And this is what I learned with those two extremes in government, that, at first I thought that they were polar opposites, that extreme hostility and the extreme politeness. But I realized that they're actually both very similar. They're two sides of the same coin, because both extreme hostility and extreme politeness see other people as means to their selfish ends. The hostility sees them as pawns to be destroyed on the way to achieving one's ends, and politeness sees others as pawns to be manipulated. But so only civility sees others as beings worthy of respect in and of themselves, just because we're people.
Yeah, that going beyond that transactional nature to relationships is such a big part of getting to civility. If everything's a transaction, whether it's we got to annihilate them and put that opposition out of the water, or we need to manipulate these people so I can get to the ends that I think are good for me. All of that, those are just transactions. That's the outward behavior as opposed to the inward principle. And again, that true civility. So talk about how we actually do that, because you talked about that word of respect, and I actually think the proper way to show respect to a dictator is to make them very uncomfortable, which is what you actually allude to.
That's exactly right. So I reclaim the whole tradition of civil disobedience in my conception of civility, my definition. And I love etymology. Etymology is throughout my book. It's kind of like they're fun little stories to help us remember and illuminate our language. So the etymology of civility and politeness supports this distinction I make. So the etymology of politeness is poliere, which means to smooth or to polish. And that is what politeness does. It papers over, it polishes over difference, as opposed to giving us the tools to grapple with difference head on. The Latin of civility is civis, all things related to the city, citizenship, and the citizen. And that is what civility is and does. It's the habits, the tools, the mores, the disposition of citizenship in the city. And that includes the tradition of civil disobedience, which is the duty of the citizen to speak truth to power, to stand up to injustice when a regime is being unjust. And I love Dr. King here. He was very instructive to me, his letter from a Birmingham jail. He says, how do we tell between a just and unjust law? A just law is squared with the moral law, with natural law. How do we know a just or unjust social norm? A just social norm is one that is squared with the moral natural law of the universe. It uplifts human personality and affirms human dignity, as Dr. King said. And that is exactly how we should tell the difference between a just and unjust social norm, and when it is our duty as citizens to stand up against injustice in our society.
Oh, that's so important. And I love this whole connection between smooth and polite. We actually had two very early civil rights leaders who just put out an extraordinary book, ironically called Climbing the Rough Side of the Mountain. And it's the only way you can actually get to the top. The smoothness, you can't get to the top, but they use that very thing in terms of that duty of citizens, that civility. You have to climb the rough side of the mountain. This is a fascinating book. This is a great read. You should all check this one out. And we really appreciate you joining us on the program today. Lexi Hudson, author of The Soul of Civility, Timeless Principles to Heal Society and Ourselves. And Lexi, thanks again for joining us. We look forward to having you back and continuing the conversation.
Such a pleasure. Would love to be back. Thank you for having me.
We'll step aside for a quick break. Some final thoughts. Stick around on Inside Sources. We'll be right back.
Every year I tell myself, Doug, you can't procrastinate. It's time to get into Burt Brothers. Make sure that the vehicle I drive, the vehicles that Dee drives, and our family vehicles are all ready for winter. And Burt Brothers, boy, as these temperatures start to drop, soon the snowflakes are going to fall, the roads are going to be slick. You need peace of mind on Utah's snowy roads. Winter tires from Burt Brothers, they make all the difference. You can drive with confidence. Specialized tires designed to grip the road in the harshest conditions. They give you better traction, handling, shorter braking distances, and the gift of safety for you and your loved ones. And right now, save up to $130 back on 4 Bridgestone Blizzak tires through December 16th. That's only at Burt Brothers with complete auto care. They can take care of it all. Make sure you're not off on the side of the road with a little help from your friends at Burt Brothers. And there's a location for Burt Brothers near you.
Experience the timeless Christmas classic that has captivated audiences nationwide. For master songwriter and storyteller Michael McLean, The Forgotten Carols is back. With an unforgettable story and songs that are a Christmas tradition for families everywhere. See the spectacular stage musical in Orem, Salt Lake, Ogden, Vernal, Tooele, and Heber. Tickets at ForgottenCarols.com.
Patrick was way behind on his IRS taxes.
I was in way over my head. The total amount ended up being somewhere just over $30,000. $30,000.
Then the IRS came to collect.
Started getting letter after letter. A lien had been filed against me. They were going to basically hang me completely out to dry.
He had to do something.
That's when I reached out to Optima Tax Relief.
Patrick's life quickly got a lot easier.
It was very easy. Pretty much hands off, They picked up the ball and ran with it.
And how'd it go?
I couldn't believe it. I had to ask 2 or 3 times. I saved an incredible amount of money.
How does Patrick feel about Optima?
Couldn't be happier. They definitely helped me. Optima Tax Relief. The best place to call. They're the best in the business.
Do what Patrick did and call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. Optima Tax Relief. Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Shields is grateful for our customers, communities, and fellow associates. We give thanks for all the little things in our lives, the things we can often overlook. Thanksgiving reminds us to take the time to open our hearts, to pause, to reflect, and to pray. With grateful hearts, we praise God for family and friends, for health and freedom, and for the rich blessings we enjoy every day as Americans. Amen. Have a blessed Thanksgiving from all of us at Shields.
Holiday Stories from Shane Company customers.
It's our first Christmas together, and I wanted to get her something special. That's why I went to Shane Company. They had so many great gifts to choose from. It was a toss-up between hoop earrings and an emerald bracelet. So I got both, one for under the tree and one for her stocking.
Shop holiday gifts in every price range. Fine jewelry crafted with care and made to last a lifetime. 'Tis the season to shine. Shane Company. Fine jewelry since 1929.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It's great to be with you today, as always, as we round out the week and as we round out our coverage on the life and legacy of M. Russell Ballard, acting president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Some final thoughts and insights from an extraordinary life with amazing impact right here in the state of Utah and all around the world. You know, back in March of 2019, the 15 senior leaders of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, including President Russell M. Nelson and M. Russell Ballard, gathered in Rome, Italy, prior to the dedication of a new temple. The visitor center on the grounds of the temple includes replicas of Bertel Thorvaldsen's majestic statue of Jesus Christ, along with statues of the ancient apostles. It was the setting for a truly iconic and historic photo of apostles and prophets. I watched the unassuming and ever-observing M. Russell Ballard, acting president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, enter the visitor center, and he walked directly to the statue depicting the Apostle Andrew. President Ballard stood there gazing at Andrew for a very, very long time. It was as if two good friends were reunited in their ministry, two apostles of Jesus Christ, two who had spent their days inviting all to come and see. It was Andrew, anciently, who invited his brother Peter to come and see. It was Andrew who introduced the centurion in need of a miracle to Jesus. It was Andrew who brought to Jesus the lad with the loaves and fishes that would ultimately feed the 5,000. Andrew was the great introducer of the New Testament. Well, throughout his life and ministry, M. Russell Ballard was likewise the great introducer, the great connector, the great missionary, inviting individuals, organizations, and the world to come and see. I've looked at a lot of great leaders over the years, and most great leaders are known for their ability to see far ahead and around corners. President Ballard possessed that vision on many important issues of the day, including the power of interfaith relationships, the importance of sacred art, the impact of counseling and councils, the influence of women in leadership, and how best to lift those in physical, emotional, or spiritual need. President Ballard also possessed another dimension of visionary leadership, which is far less common. It's the ability to see the interconnectedness of individuals from history with the people of the present and the posterity of the future. In many ways, President Ballard has been the great linchpin and connecting link in the unfolding history of the Church of Jesus Christ, from ancient apostles in the meridian of time through the Smith family's role in the church's restoration in upstate New York in the 1800s, to his own nearly 50-year personal global ministry that came to an earthly end on November 12th of 2023. President Ballard's vision could truly see beyond the years, and it will definitely extend for generations yet to come. As a special witness of Jesus Christ, he invited all to come and see the powerful principles exemplified in the lives of pioneers and prophets, along with faithful followers of Jesus down through the ages. I had the opportunity to be part of a group that provided media coverage of President M. Russell Ballard's visit to the Smith family farm and the birthplace of the prophet Joseph Smith in Sharon, Vermont, back in October of 2019. It was truly insightful. I saw his past, present, and future vision in panoramic view as he invited all to come and see in both word and deed. The group traveling with President Ballard stayed at a very small hotel, not far from the Smith family farm. Before heading to the farm early one morning, most of us in the group explored the breakfast buffet at the hotel, but not President Ballard. President Ballard was found in the lobby of the hotel, speaking very kindly and very personally to a young clerk behind the counter. He was bearing his apostolic witness of Jesus Christ and inviting her to come and see. It's interesting, the Ballard children, all 7 of them, were used to being late to things because their father would always stop to share the good news of the gospel with a clerk, a waitress, a cab driver, or someone or anyone who just happened to cross their path. Well, later that morning in Sharon, Vermont, in the Smith cottage, President Ballard let everyone come and see his connection to the past and present and his urgency. He always had this urgency to accelerate his own ministry in the present and future. During a recorded interview, he traced the trajectory of his family and ministry through great leaders and family members by describing 3 statues, 3 busts that he had in his office in Salt Lake City. Filled with immense emotion, President Ballard shared this.
I've got the bust of Joseph F. Smith and Joseph and Hiram, and I look at them and I think I hear them say, "Get going, boy, do something worthwhile. Tell the world what's happened." So, to me, I get nudged big time when I see them and see what they did and what they gave. Then I feel obligated to do everything I can to declare and to teach that the fullness of the gospel of Jesus Christ is once again upon the earth.
President Ballard's urgent drive, he got those nudges even in his 90s to tell the world what's happened, to come and see. That carried him to the far corners of the planet as a world religious leader, where he met with members of the church as well as with business, government, faith, and philanthropic leaders in countless countries. I caught a glimpse of President Ballard's fierce determination to invite the world to come and see one last time, just prior to the church's October 2023 General Conference. On the Tuesday before the conference, I followed President Ballard to the conference center, where he would do a walkthrough of his talk. His eyesight had grown increasingly dim and cloudy. His prophetic and apostolic vision, however, was never more clear. While using a teleprompter proved impossible, and even large font bullet points on paper were pointless, President Ballard had a point of view to share, a testimony to declare, and a clear message to deliver. At one point, he took my arm and commented, "Boyd, it is hard to go blind." I simply replied, "President Ballard, you have been teaching the world how to walk by faith and not by sight for 50 years. This should be easy for you." Well, on Sunday morning in October, this venerable apostle stood to speak before the vast gathering in the conference center, and not ironically, to the unseen millions around the world who tuned in by radio, television, and the internet. With perfect 360-degree vision of past, present, and future, President Ballard declared this.
In 50 years, brothers and sisters, I've had the privilege to cover the world in my assignment as a general authority of the church. It's been a wonderful blessing. There's I think almost all the parts of the world I've got pretty close to. I've met with members of the church all over the world. Oh, how I love you. What a glorious experience that's been to look into your faces, be in your presence, and feel your love that you have for the Lord and for the restoration of the gospel of Jesus Christ.
With history's 2020 hindsight, prophetic insight, and visionary foresight, President Ballard concluded his life, his ministry, and his testimony by saying this.
I leave you my witness and testimony that I know that Jesus is the Christ. He is our Savior, our Redeemer. He is our best friend.
As President Ballard concluded, a very young girl who was sitting next to me and my wife, Debbie, in the conference center reacted, saying out loud, and to no one in particular, he's saying goodbye. And truly, that was what he did on that October day at General Conference. And as I sat there in the echo of that final apostolic declaration of the acting president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles from M. Russell Ballard, I could hear President Ballard's lifelong invitation once more to come and see. That wraps it up for us on Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. Today, I am Boyd Matheson. Thanks for listening. And as always, as you go out into the world,